Hello and welcome to the third episode of Talk to Nishan. I am here again with enriched, and today we are going to talk about the importance of reading. That's an interesting topic for me because I have taken a resolution this year that I would be reading 52 books this year, one book each week. So let's get started. What are your thoughts on reading?
No, just a few quirky lines. How about that? Shall we? Reading is strange when you don't read. Books look ugly when you're alone.
That sums it up. Yes, well said. Absolutely. So it's a habit. It's a wonderful habit, and all of us need to get in this habit of reading books.
Absolutely.
I have a countless list, an endless list of benefits when it comes to reading. So what I honestly feel at present, because of our smartphones and all of our digital devices, access to basic information is so easy that just by knowing the right search phrases, you can dominate any cafeteria conversation, a cab conversation, a conversation on social media. You can obviously research a little bit and then throw out some wise ass shit on people, and people are gonna, whoa, this man.
So we're overdosed with information that is not always useful.
I wouldn't really say that. I wouldn't say it's not useful, but it's pretty concise. It's pretty concise. It's exactly what the need of hour is. For example, if you have to answer a question in an exam, in any sort of literary exam, let's suppose that you are writing a paper on Frankenstein, Mary Shelley. What would you do? You need to read a book, a 500 pages book.
Oh, yeah.
It's heavy, it's going to take time. Alternatively, what you can do, you would go on Wikipedia, you would just read the plot, you would read the gist, you would read the critical
summary,
analysis,
the characters, yes.
and you have it all. You can go ahead and ace that paper.
Yeah.
But do you really know what is in that book? You do not. So that is what I'm trying to point out. You can, with your half knowledge, with your Google knowledge, you can absolutely dominate conversation. You can dominate social gatherings. You can dominate the water cooler conversation in your office. Maybe you can dominate your dumb girlfriend just jazzing up shit in front of her.
And we've seen that happening so often.
A lot, and that really pisses me off. Because the reality is, if you need to write about something, if you need to talk about something, you can speak 2 to 3 lines if you have read at least 10,000 lines. People do not do that. They read 5 lines and they yap 3 lines out of it. That is not going to make you intelligent. That is not going to fool someone into thinking you are intelligent until and unless both of you
are non-readers.
Yeah, exactly. So if you really want to grow yourself, if you really want to be a better person, be intelligent, how do you think Joe Rogan, how do you think Tim Ferriss, or for that matter, Sir Jordan Peterson, how do you think they are so articulate and they are so well spoken?
They read a lot.
Exactly.
Without reading, there's no shortcut to it.
I'm sorry again to interrupt you, but there is no shortcut to it. You can't read 2-minute reads, and you can't even listen to those audiobooks who are summarizing a book in 15 minutes, claiming, "Hey, buddy, you don't have time. Why are you wasting time? Listen to this for 15 minutes." No, that's not the right way to go. How many books did you read in the last in 2020?
So yes, so we're closing on the second month. So far I've read 4 books. So about to complete the 5th book, and compared to last year, that's a significant improvement because last year I had a failed resolution. It's like every year I thought I would read 52 books, like you said, and I ended up reading only 8 books in a year.
Even that's not bad, but I believe those 8 were hefty hefty Dostoevsky kind of books, not those thin, sickly books.
So yeah, that's the idea. I mean, why would you read a book in the first place? So the idea is you don't want to do something superficially. There should be an element of granularity in it. All right, when you read a book, there are at least 5 to 6 characters in that book, if not more. So what you're really doing is you're training your focus, you're training your mind to concentrate more, and at the same time you're training your memory. How? Because with every chapter, with every passage of the story, the plot changes, the events change, the characters mature. There is a journey, and if we don't remember what happened in the beginning, we wouldn't be able to understand what's happening right now in the middle of the story. So it trains your memory, an excellent brain stimulant, and at the same time, researchers have found that people who are readers have less chances of having Alzheimer's and dementia.
Two things here.
Yeah,
So, what's the alternate to reading? Video content?
absolutely.
Now, what video does to you, it engulfs you into this pseudo reality, and you just step into that. It's wonderful, it's so hypnotizing, and you would definitely enjoy it because you don't have to do shit, you just have to sit and enjoy it. So, absolutely, it's enjoyable, but everything is at rest. You are not using your brain, you are tiring your eyes, your head is not processing in the same manner as it does when you read a book. There is no creative imagination going on. There is a world, someone thought about that world and presented it to you. Contrary, in books, what happens is, yes, there is a world, but nobody has made it for you. You sit there and you create that world, you create that castle in your own head.
Yeah,
and that is
very
the
true.
power of reading. It would really put your brain at work. And just think about books like Hard Times, Charles Dickens, Crime and Punishment, Dostoevsky. If you are not paying attention, you need to come back.
You
man.
give up reading the book.
Yeah.
That's what
Or you would
90%
come
of
back.
people do.
I do this a lot many times. I'm at page number 215 and then I'm like, okay, I think I missed few pages. You go back to page 202, you read again. So that's challenging at times too, but that's what the real fun is. It's raw. It's all in front of you and then you cook the shit.
And there's a lot of depth to it.
Exactly.
You can read and think. And again, go back to reading and think. So what are you essentially doing? You're training your analytical mind. So you're judging the characters, you're forming perceptions. When you step out into the real world, you have those perceptions, those experiences imprinted in your mind. And then when you look at the real characters, you sometimes are able to judge characters, judge real people in a better way. Makes you a better observer of human psychology. And yeah, so you get all the right theoretical knowledge before you step out into the practical world.
There's so
That's
much
a
of
huge
wisdom
advantage.
in books. Not that I'm taking away the glory of creating video content. People are doing lots of work. Plain and simple content creators or show creators or movie creators. I'm not taking away their glory. They do magnificent work. But you can't compare and you can't substitute. If you are consuming 30 minutes of video content, whether it's a show, whether it's content online, whether it's YouTube, you got to consume at least an hour of a book, reading a book.
Absolutely.
Because what you learn from a book, no one can teach you that. In this year, in 2020, what I have read is, the books I have read is 1984 by George Orwell.
Oh, I read that one too. So yeah, that's a coincidence.
Then I read The 5 AM Club by Robin Sharma. Then I read The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg. I completed Atomic Habits by James Clear. I have Hooked lying on my bookshelf. I would be reading it after I complete Guns, Germs and Steel. That's by Jared Diamond, and it's this
Oh yeah, that's an
book.
epic book.
Yeah,
That's what I've seen.
it's about the last 13,000 years of human, plants, animals, the history of the entire planet.
The evolutionary process.
Yeah, and then I would move to Sapiens.
Mhm.
I also have to complete Charles Darwin's book, the original book. What's that called? The Evolution of
The Theory of Evolution.
The Theory of Evolution. Yeah, I want to read that. So I have this interesting way of finding books. So I read a book, and that writer, if it's non-fiction, then that writer is going to talk about 4 other books and 4 other writers. So that's my next reading list. When it comes to fiction, then because I was exposed too early to literature and fiction, so thankfully I have such a varied and vast background that I never felt the need to look for fiction. You just know the names in your head.
Absolutely.
And they are never going to end. There are so many.
And whereas I have been a very unfaithful reader, so I have a very bad habit of surfing books, skimming through pages, and sometimes completing the whole book, sometimes not completing the entire book. As a result of which, I sometimes feel that if I'm putting in so much effort and if I'm investing my time into reading a book, I should read it till the last page. So that hasn't been happening for quite some time. But yes, fortunately, I've not done that with any of the classics that I've read.
Did you complete the painting of
Dorian Gray,
Yeah.
Oscar Wilde?
Yeah.
Yes, a fantastic book, excellent book by this Irish legendary writer, Oscar Wilde. But
You
yes,
gotta be yourself, everyone else is taken.
absolutely.
Yeah, I'm sorry to put you in this position, but yeah, tell me, who's your favorite writer?
Oh gosh, there's so many of them, but
Yeah,
but yes, again, to name a few, I would say Charles Dickens. Again, we grew up reading Charles Dickens. Who wouldn't declare him as one of the best writers of the 19th century? If we talk about Great Expectations, A Tale of Two Cities, or Oliver Twist, Hard Times.
it creates
I don't know, man. I mean, again, less digital distraction.
Yeah.
They're more acoustic, more into themselves.
You know something
Yeah.
really interesting? So Dickens, he used to have a compass, and whenever he used to sleep, he made sure that the compass pointed north. He thought that that kind of increases his creativity. Surprisingly, I too have a compass, and I haven't tried it yet. But someday, if I'm going to hit writer's block, I'm going to do that. This shit sounds interesting. Look at north, sleep, be creative, and write hard times. Holy shit, man!
Who knows?
I wanna do that shit, man.
Just like Percy B. Shelley, the famous poet, he used to smell rotten apples before he used to sit down to write his masterpiece. So I figured out that probably it's easier for me because fresh apples are quite expensive. So rotten apples, yeah, you can
you
get them
always,
anything.
you always have access to.
Yeah.
If I talk about my favorite writer, honestly, it would be an insult to so many. If I'm gonna pick one, I would never pick one. That's unfair. That's
Absolutely.
unethical. That's like a Holocaust situation if we start picking writers. But yeah, someone who left the most brutal mark on my soul was fucking Dostoevsky.
Dostoevsky, oh yes.
So I remember that I wrote something about him in my journal, trying to understand what exactly was the emotion which I experienced when I read him. So I believe what I wrote was what Dostoevsky does to you. First of all, he's gonna make you miserable, like you're going to float in misery. And okay, There's something else. So there are modern writers like Chuck Flonick, someone, the one who wrote Fight Club. Then you have great Charles Bukowski. Whenever they write something, they are into this act of bombarding you, or let's
Hammer.
something like that, or just shooting you like boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
So that's how their words would hit you. With Dostoevsky, that's not the case. Okay, you're not going to experience single finite balls.
Yeah.
It's like clouds of misery, and it's going to hit you very softly, yet it's extremely painful. And slowly and gradually, there are so many clouds that you would start floating in it. So you are floating, and there's misery, and you are not hurt, but your heart and your soul is crying. Damn, how can you put someone in such a place? You can't write books like that.
Like 5 years of exile in Siberia, probably that does a lot to metamorphose you into something that for someone who's out of this world, who has a greater capacity of expressing emotions that are truly humane.
So I remember I had a debate with someone long time ago about artists in pain creating great art, and that wonderful woman was, she was just after my life, that how can I say such a statement. She truly believed that artists are happy people, and there are just few, there are only a handful who are in pain, and it's all right they are in pain, but everyone should be happy and then they should write. And then when you debate with such millennials, and then there's a time when you realize, okay, these are the people who really didn't read the books they were supposed to, and then you stay calm. There's no point arguing. When the entire world knows the truth, you can't fucking create art without being
You've
paid.
got to pass through the purgatory.
Exactly, and this is what Russian writers, this is how they have an upper hand. These motherfuckers, they experience such untangible amount of pain and misery in their life. What they witnessed, I remember in what I read, that in USSR the government had to paint the walls, don't eat your children. So you see, people who are coming from shit like this, they are going to like fucking raw literature. You are going to bleed in your pants. No motherfucker can beat that shit.
Be it Tolstoy, be it Dostoevsky, be it Chekhov. I mean, these people are irreplaceable. There's no one who stands a chance. But yes, again, British writers, for that matter, and even Irish
language.
Yeah, that's their language. But again, Russians wrote in Russian, but then it was translated in English. So if in reading in English we are getting the essence of what they were trying to say, imagine if we could have read the books in Russian.
Oh yes.
What?
At least 10% text gets lost in translation.
Lost in translation, absolutely.
Okay, so now there's something else, and this is for all of you who are not into reading non-fiction, or who are mostly who stick to reading fiction. What about you, Abdul? Do you read non-fiction, or do you also have some kind of hatred? No, I'm not going to waste my time with non-fiction.
I wouldn't really say that, because a reader should always have an open mind. Otherwise, the approach becomes very restrictive. So, some of the non-fiction books that I can really think of is The White Mughal by William Dalrymple. So he's a British gentleman, British writer who's spent considerable amount of time in India, and he has extensively studied Mughal history and medieval history, Indian history. So he wrote beautifully about the life in the Mughal era and how they used to, how the society used to function, and what were the vices, what were the evils, dowry and sati, and then a lot of royal children did not even get the royal privileges. So they used to lead the lives of destitutes because they never got the name of their father. So again, it's an interesting take because people usually think that everything's hunky dory in a royal palace, but it turns out that's not entirely true. There's a lot of misery, treason, people murdering each other. So that was interesting. Another book that I read by the same writer was The Age of Kali.
Okay.
Yes, it's a critically acclaimed book where he talks about the different miseries in the various stratas of the society. There was a chapter, I still remember it vividly, where he talks about the widows who chant the name of Lord Krishna and who sing hymns. Widows of Vrindavan. Vrindavan, yes. They're really famous. And they're made to sit in an ashram or in a temple for hours. And they have different shifts. And all they get for singing and chanting for hours is 2 rupees. Only 2 rupees and a cup of rice. That's all they get. And in the process of, straining themselves to be heard and, to chant and do their job religiously, if they happen to doze off, if they lose their focus, there are special officers or whatever, caretakers, who have sticks and they prod them with those sticks just to, bring them back to the daily business of chanting and singing. So again, an interesting book. So
that's the point here. A lot many of readers, and we are talking about readers. We are not talking about the regular people who shy away from books. Now, a lot many readers shy away from non-fiction, which I think isn't the right way to go. I seriously believe that non-fiction has an altogether different way of imparting its own wisdom. They too have examples, they too have small stories. Yes, the narrative is not so captivating. Yes, you are not going to lose yourself. But at the same time, you are going to learn a lot. You are going to learn extensively. For example, if you just talk about a basic book, Jordan Peterson wrote 12 Rules of Life. It has sold more than 1 million copies. He just talks about 12 basic rules by which you can live your life. The first rule being clean up your room, the second rule being stand up straight. Just basic things so that you can improve in your day-to-day living. But at the same time, these non-fiction books are written in a very poetic and in a beautiful manner. Yes, there is not a single narrative which you can follow and then it would lead to an end. But altogether, non-fiction is also great for your overall development. And I truly believe that if you are reading 2 fiction, at least read 1 non-fiction.
One non-fiction.
Another great tip which I would like to pass over is before sleeping, before going to bed, you need to read a book. Why?
Yes.
Let me tell you why. I'm sure you know that. Let me tell you why. It's gonna give you crazy dreams. You would never experience such dreams if you are watching a TV show and then heading back to your bed. Never ever. If you are reading a book, your creative imagination is already heightened, and the moment your brain shuts itself down and you just have some tiny fragments of your brain working, you're gonna weave such great dreamy narratives, you're going to lose yourself. You would never feel like waking up. Damn, it's so beautiful. I do it every night and I feel so blessed.
And you don't think you're getting distracted. It actually helps as a catalyst.
Exactly.
Works as a catalyst to
puts you to sleep also. So two birds die on the same.
Yeah. And not to forget the musty smell of old books and that's heaven. I mean, that's the first thing I do. I pick up a book, I just smell the book. So anyway.
So if you are not a reader, you gotta be a reader. If you are not reading non-fiction, you gotta read non-fiction. If you are not reading a book before going to bed, you gotta do that, man. It's going to change your life. See you next week. Thank you.